Hello there, I'm Noel Hacegaba, Deputy Executive Director of the Port of Long Beach. Welcome to Supply Chain Insight, where we explore the latest trends, issues, and news in the supply chain with top industry leaders, experts, and influencers. Our objective is to bring you the insight you need to help you keep your cargo moving. Today's business executives expect a lot from their supply chains: efficiency, velocity, flexibility, cost management, and operational excellence. Supply Chain Insight brings the supply chain to you, one segment at a time, to explore new approaches and innovative solutions that will help you and the Port of Long Beach deliver greater value to our customers and partners. Today's episode highlights the latest digital initiative brought to you by the Port of Long Beach, the Supply Chain Information Highway. This is our response to the years-long need for reliable data visibility across the supply chain, which was glaring and magnified during the most recent supply chain crisis. Our special guest today is one of the partners of UNCOMN, Nick Powers. UNCOMN is a consulting company based in St. Louis that has been working with us to develop the Supply Chain Information Highway. UNCOMN provides industry-leading business-to-business management and technology consulting services. They are a self-described group of engineers, architects, analysts, hackers, and yes, geeks, who thrive on finding elegant solutions to wickedly complex organizational, logistical, process, data, and technical problems. And those who know the supply chain know that there are few things more complex and challenging. And one area that has been particularly challenging is a lack of cargo visibility. Nick, welcome to Supply Chain Insight. Thanks for joining us to help our audience understand what the Supply Chain Information Highway is, what it's not, and how it will help the supply chain.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Noel. I'm really excited to be here today.
Let me start with the obvious question. What is the problem the Supply Chain Information Highway is trying to solve?
You know, you alluded to it earlier, but as you know, the Port of Long Beach has received an overwhelmingly number of requests to get access to better data visibility. And so what we're trying to do with the Supply Chain Information Highway is liberate the data from all of these independent industrial silos that exist today and provide that data back to the port's partners, allowing them to get access to the data they sorely need to plan, schedule, and optimize their businesses.
You know, over the years, Nick, various cargo visibility tools have emerged both in the public and private sectors. But in spite of this, we still lack end-to-end visibility across the entire system. How is the Supply Chain Information Highway different in this regard?
Yeah, so it's been really fun to watch the tool evolution as new optimizers and schedulers have been introduced to the markets over the last several years. But at the heart of all these very advanced systems that have unbelievable sophisticated technologies is you have to have data. Without the data, these systems do not run well. They can't make the informed decisions that drive businesses. And so that's why the Supply Chain Information Highway is different, is we're not trying to build a system. We're not trying to solve a problem of how to optimize how many ships or trucks or rail cars that you need to move in a general direction. We're actually just providing you the data to make those systems work better. And this is probably why we're seeing a number of these vendors that make these optimizers and schedulers step up and support this project, which is really exciting because anytime something new is introduced to the market, people get very nervous and they don't want to see that. They see that as competition, but we're seeing the opposite reaction. And as we continue to approach this problem very radically different than most people have done it in the past, we see this can be adopted nationally.
You know, Nick, I like to say that technology in and of itself is simply a tool. It becomes a solution when it's properly integrated into the operation. And I think what you just said speaks to the way that the information highway is not just designed, but the features and the benefits that it affords all the users. You know, one of the analogies I like to use in describing the information highway is if you think of all the cargo visibility tools that are in the market today as cars that carry data, what we're building here in Long Beach is the highway. It's that common corridor over which all this data is going to travel. It's going to enable all these different tools and all these different cars to travel on it. From your standpoint, how does the information highway as a piece of digital infrastructure help to consolidate data from different sources and ultimately, as you said, liberate the data and make it available to all the users?
Yeah, great question, Noel. The highway itself, what we've done is we've made it so it can adapt to the industry. We're not trying to tell the industry how to do business and change the way they do business. What we're doing is building something that adapts to the way things work today. So that includes an engine that accepts data in multiple formats, such as EDI, XML, BAPLY, Edifact, you name it. We're building an engine that can ingest it. And then we normalize that data into easily consumable data sets that are useful bits of information. And so specifically around container events. So as a container moves through the supply chain, we're giving you a very simple, the container moved, it's this booking number, it's this event status, it's at this event location, it happened on this date. And that simple amount of data really can go a long way in helping people figure out what's going on in the supply chain. We've stood up an application programming interface, or API, which will be accessible by the partners of the Port of Long Beach supply chain to be able to pull this data back out of the system. And by consolidating and doing all this normalization work, we see we are, number one, reducing a lot of effort that our partners are putting into connecting to various websites, setting up various data connection feeds to transportation providers. There's a lot of work that goes into figuring out where the cargo is on a day in and day out basis. And so we see this as drastically reducing the amount of work that our providers and partners have to do in order to conduct business. And we think that's going to be incredibly useful for them. We've created a universal standard that is very easily ingestible. We estimate it will be ingestible day one by 95% of the existing systems. And on top of all these benefits that we're creating with the Supply Chain Information Highway, we're turning what we call non-event data, so data that you wouldn't typically consider an event, into events, and providing that to the participants of the system. And we think that's a great additional benefit as well.
Nick, before we get to the next question, what I heard in your response is maximum flexibility. And when you're a port that serves over 200,000 different shippers, varying in size from your small businesses that route 2-3 containers a year to your massive shippers, you need that flexibility to be able to liberate the data and make it accessible to different users. So a very important feature. One of the reasons UNCOMN, and you in particular, were selected was your previous work with the Department of Defense. Now, we know that data security is very important in everything that you do. Tell us how the data that will run through the Supply Chain Information Highway will be secured.
Absolutely, Noel. It's always nerve-wracking when you have to go through an RFP process, and we did that last year with the Port of Long Beach, but we leaned heavily on our experience in both the defense and logistics that we've built up now over the last 12 years in business. And 6 of those years, we've actually been building secure cloud for the Department of Defense. And so when the port realized that, they saw a natural fit for a security purpose. And so we've done our best to implement security controls and configurations within the environment that will protect the data and the system from cybersecurity attacks. We've implemented an identity and access management solution that not only leverages use cases and roles that we built that are custom fit to the industrial components of the supply chain, but we've additionally added attribute information that, when combined the two things together, allow us to really understand who's logging in and what data they should get when they get the return of the API. And finally, we're leveraging a strategy that mimics the principle of least privilege. And what that is in IT speak is, don't give someone access to something unless they absolutely need it and they can prove it. And you always make sure you give them the least amount of information as possible. Well, in this system, we're actually adopting a methodology where we do not share data unless we can verify not only that the data is owned by a particular entity, but that the user then is also representing that entity before we share it. And if we can't verify that, we don't share that data. So we believe that this will protect the critical and proprietary nature of the data that's being input into the system by our partners. And we believe that that's the best thing for the Supply Chain Information Highway.
It's very good to hear, Nick. Data security will continue to be a priority and of utmost importance. Let's shift gears. Access to data is one thing, but accessing accurate, reliable, and actionable data is what the customers ultimately wants. How could the supply chain information highway help with this?
We touched on this a little bit earlier, but currently, for a supply chain partner to get access to data, they're actually going out to multiple websites, multiple different connections. They're having to create their own business rules, creating the ability to convert data from multiple formats into something that's useful. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. Those rules break down on a day in and day out basis. And so, customers today think they're in great shape, and then next month they're not. And so we see this as a game changer for them because we're doing the work for them. And on top of that, the Port of Long Beach is providing this work free of charge to their supply chain partners. I don't know anywhere else that you can get something that requires this much level of effort to pull this amount of information together to secure it and securely transfer it to partners that's free. And it's an incredible thing that the port is doing here by doing that. We're also lightly curating it to make sure that it's easily consumable to all of the port optimizers, schedulers, and planning systems out there. And so I believe that at the end of the day, what you're going to see is people able to take quicker action, faster action, and they're also going to have access to data they probably didn't even know they had access to or could get. And in that case, you're just creating an unlimited amount of opportunity for these partners to be able to improve their businesses.
That's excellent, Nick. You just completed the proof of concept. Tell us who and what was involved and what you learned throughout the process that will inform the path forward.
Yeah, so we came loaded with a lot of experience working with the U.S. Army and the Air Force, and we've done a lot of international port operations, cargo tracking, and we love to do it. But we've never had the opportunity to sit down with one of the largest ports in the world and look at the inner operations of it and work with the teams and work with the different folks on the ground that are making a difference every day. And so as part of the prototype, we had the opportunity to work with one of the most advanced, just recently finally opened in August of last year, container ports in America, the LBCT terminal, which is just an unbelievable marvel of technology and operational efficiency. And so we've been able to work with that terminal, the partners, the transportation partners and beneficial cargo owners that move in and out of that terminal, as well as some amazing people that work for the Port of Long Beach and pairing them up with my team to help develop a cloud environment, pipe in that data securely, negotiate the data sharing agreements, curate and ensure we build the model that is easily consumable, pulling in feedback from those BCOs to make sure that we give them something that's very valuable, and then test and deliver the prototype, the endpoint to provide that data out to show that this thing is more than capable of answering the questions that are being asked by our supply chain partners. So it's been quite a journey in roughly 5 months. I mean, we've accomplished so much in 5 months, and we're really looking forward to taking this to the next level.
Oh, that's terrific, Nick. I mean, so much progress in so little time, but yet the industry desperately needs a solution like this. Nick, we're excited about the difference the supply chain information highway will make for our partners, and even better, I would also add that the Port of Oakland and the Northwest Seaport Alliance have agreed to join us in this effort. And our vision ultimately is end-to-end and eventually coast-to-coast visibility. Nick, thanks again for joining us today. And to our valued audience, thanks again for joining us. And we'll see you again soon for another episode of Supply Chain Insight, brought to you by the Port of Choice, the Port of Long Beach.